right, welcome to another Thursday meeting about how to sell more pools and make more money. I am Matt Hart. This is the Digs on Demand Facebook group where we cover all things that have to do with sales and sales management and running small pool operations. If you like this video, please hit it with the thumbs up. Please send it to people so it gets shown to instead of my personal Facebook friends, maybe it'll end up on some pool builders pages, which honestly is the whole point of these videos. Today we have hopefully a really good, quick, clean topic for you so that you can take action on really, really quickly. And these are basically 5 ways to sharpen your sales axe now before things get too hot, literally and sales-wise. So I don't know if you've been down this road before, but typically what happens is early, late winter, early spring, things start to pick back up. We start to kind of get back into the groove sales wise. And honestly, it feels easier just because the market conditions are a little bit easier. And we don't really feel the need always to improve our sales craft or improve our sales process. And what happens is that lo and behold, things get hotter and hotter. You sell more pools. All of a sudden, we're in the middle of the summer and we're running a bunch of leads, running a bunch of appointments, got tons of proposals out there. And it's just busy. And when things are really busy and stressful, that is a bad time to try and stop to sharpen the axe. It's a hard time to make any sort of process changes or implement any new systems. It's the wrong time. The time to do that sort of thing is now. Okay. When we have the time, we have a little bit of momentum going so that we can actually implement systems, but not so much momentum that we're just bogged down in the daily grind of what the sales job actually requires. So this is targeted towards salespeople, but also especially sales managers and solopreneurs who are, kind of one-man banding it with, running their pool construction company. If you are a sales guy and some of this stuff sounds good, but you're like, I don't really know how I personally would take advantage of it, get this recording to your boss, or I just ask them about the specific topic. And of course, you can have them reach out to me directly if they have any questions. So real quick, 5 ways that you can sharpen your sales axe now that'll really, really help you as we move into the summer. So the first thing that I would have you write down is nitty gritty sales execution plan. Nitty gritty sales execution plan. Okay. Far too often when I talk to salespeople or solopreneurs, or really anyone who's in the early years of running their pool business, far more often than not, they have a goal. They have this number that they're shooting for. But when I start to dig into that number and how they're getting there, usually I hear crickets. Okay, there's not a whole lot of backup that's telling them and telling me how they're actually going to get to their goal. The goal sounds good, but there's no real plan to get there. It's like, we'll sell $10 million. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? All right. So I want you to write down a couple numbers that you need. Okay. So here's the first number that you need to know. And just if you already know it, write it down. Okay. What is your average pool sale? So if you're looking at this as an office level, do it for your office. If you're looking at it as an individual sales rep, do it as an individual rep. What's your average sale or your average contract amount? And then I also need you to jot down your average closing percentage. Not what did you close last week when you were hot and everything went well, and also not what your closing percentage was in the worst week ever, but what is your legitimate average closing percentage? And if you're newer to the industry, not too sure what your numbers should be, maybe just ask your boss, ask me. I can tell you what they're probably going to end up at as you get into the swing of things a little bit more. Okay, so the question that you really want to ask yourself is, how many pools will it take to hit your goal? So that's the next thing. How many pools is it going to take to hit your goal? So if you're a sales rep, you might have a goal of, let's say you want to sell $2.5 million this year. Well, how many pools is that going to take? The simple math is you take that $2.5 million and divide it by your average contract. So let's say your average contract's $100,000. Well, you need to sell 25 pools this year to get to 2.5 million. Okay. So do your math, figure out how many pools it's going to take for you to get to your annual goal. Okay. Now what I need you to do is I need you to think about how many appointments you need to run to get to that goal. So how many sits, how many living rooms do you need to be in for you to get 25 sales? Are you some sort of crazy dynamo who sells everything and you have a 50% closing? Great, you need 50 appointments, right? Maybe you're way more normal, right? And you have about a 25% closing. Well, that means you need to run 100 appointments, right? Okay, so then the final thing, and this is more so less for the, I guess it depends on how you're structured, your sales organization. If you're a sales guy who has to call his own leads and book appointments, versus, if you're a sales guy that just gets the appointments given to them, it kind of depends on your structure. But the next thing that you need to know is you need to know how many leads is it going to take for you to get that many appointments? How many leads is it going to take for you to get that many appointments? So like a pretty common thing that you'll hear from most marketers, most us included, is if you buy leads, you get leads from the internet, you can throw about half of them in the trash. 50% will be good, and you can turn 50% into sits. Maybe you won't get 100% of that 50%. So how many leads do you think you need to get that number of appointments? Okay, so now what you should have is you should have number of leads, number of appointments, number of sales, and then total number, total revenue for the year. Okay. Once you look at these numbers, I want you to ask yourself, where are the gaps? Where are the issues here? Okay. So let's say your goal was 5 million and you're like, wow, Matt, it turns out I'm going to need a lot more appointments than I'm currently getting. How do I get more appointments? Well, there's a couple different ways you can manage that gap. Either you can do more appointments and your boss can get you more leads, or you can increase your closing percentage. Okay. So my whole point is that you need to look at the numbers of your sales plan for the year, not just for this month, but for the whole year, and look at where it starts to break down. Where do the numbers start to fall apart? Okay. For some of you guys who actually run a company, especially if you're a smaller organization, what I see a lot of times is you have a goal that's, let's say it's $10 million, which is great, but you only have 2 sales guys. Okay. To expect both your sales guys to have a $5 million year, pretty unlikely, right? If you run the numbers on how many appointments that is, these guys are working probably 80-hour weeks every week of the year and performing at a very high level to get there. So what that means when you look at the numbers is you probably need to hire another sales guy, and you probably don't want to wait until July to do that, right? You probably want to do that now, train them up, have them ready for the summer. So my whole point is have a nitty gritty sales execution plan. It's not enough just to, at this point in the year, it's not enough to say, oh, we're going to sell $10 million and hope that it just happens. You got to know the numbers that are going to go into that final revenue goal. And then you need to know where the plan starts to break down. Okay. If you want any more help on this, whether it's as a sales guy or as a solopreneur, feel free to reach out. I have a nice Excel sheet that I can run you through, and we can kind of see where your numbers are at. Okay. So next thing, the second thing to do now, instead of waiting till the summer, is start to plan out your sales pushes and your incentives. Okay. I'm a big fan of sales pushes. What a sales push is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a push for sales. And specifically, you want to have an incentive both for the client and for the salespeople. Okay. The client incentive is very simple. The client incentive is, an extra discount above and beyond what you're normally offering. Okay. Or some sort of, if not a discount, usually discount is the best way and easiest way to apply this. Perhaps you do some sort of really nice giveaway with every pool purchase. Typically, I see it done with a higher discount, but this has to be a real discount. It has to feel real. Okay. You can't just slap a bow on the same discount you've been giving all year round and call it a sale. You need to actually put a little skin in the game here. Okay. On the sales side, as far as the incentive goes, you want to create if you have a decent enough sales team, create a contest out of this. It is insane. Salespeople are very competitive, myself included. It's amazing what people will do for a first place trophy. It doesn't cost you a whole lot, but the feeling of pride and accomplishment is a big motivating tool for a lot of salespeople. But you can also, depending on the size of your company, add some sort of incentive where the first place guy for this sales push gets X amount cash, right? Or maybe you're a really big company, you can do some sort of trip incentive, buy them a 5-day cruise. It's crazy how cheap you can get cruises for now. Honestly, you probably would just be losing more in sales because the guy's not working than actually spending on the cruise itself. So anyways, you put together a sales push. And besides just being a cool thing, here's what this does for you as a business leader and as a salesperson. And salespeople will back me up on this. Sales guys get bored. Okay. The year is long. The sales calendar is long. Okay. And when we're busy in the middle of the summer and we're getting all these leads, it's really easy to stop working on the old pipeline, the stuff we're running now, January, February, March, that stuff that doesn't close. Those people still exist. And a lot of those people didn't buy pools by the time July comes. Okay. But when we're busy with all this new stuff, if nothing has changed in our offer, there's not a whole lot of motivation for us to go back and try to get these people dialed back in and get them hyped up again. Okay. So when you have a strategically placed sales push, what it allows your sales team to do is do a much better job of working their pipeline. Okay, you get a lot more bang for your buck out of the pipeline. Like I said, you do have to take it on the chin a little bit as far as the discount. You got to expect your profit to go down a couple points during these sales pushes. But what you're going to reap and win is huge sales volume that is more than going to make up for the couple points that you lose on the jobs itself. If you want more questions on how to structure a sales push, let me know. We can either cover it on another call or we can cover it one-on-one. There's lots of cool ways to do this. One way that I know it's been done in the past is, we would get in touch with all of our trade partners at the beginning of the year. And when we would sign a yearly trade partner agreement. And in that trade partner agreement, we would actually list out the dates of the 3 to 4 sales pushes we were doing that calendar year. And we would ask them to contribute, whether it was a point here, a point there. Basically, the trade partners give us a discount, and then we can pass that discount on to the client. So that we can create this really nice incentive for the client or the prospect without you having to absorb all of that liability financially. Another cool thing that I heard of a company doing in Texas, love this idea. They did kind of like a Yahtzee thing where anyone that came in and bought a pool during this one weekend, once they signed a contract, they got to roll like 5 dice or something, 5 die. And depending on what the numbers came up, they got certain discounts and promotions. And some of them were crazy. Like if they rolled a Yahtzee, they got a free pool. Think about that. If they rolled a Yahtzee, they got a free swimming pool. It's insane. Now, luckily, no one rolled a Yahtzee, but the company was smart. The way they did it is they had an insurance company cover this program. You can actually do this sort of thing. Obviously, if you're a solo guy, might be a little bit for you to bite off right now, but if you have the leverage and the resources, you think of fun, exciting promotions you can do. Like literally you're getting 50% off pools, 25% off pools, all based off of the roll of a dice. People love that sort of thing. And again, they had it insured by a company so that they paid X amount. And even if the Yahtzee hit, the insurance company was covering it because it was, so unlikely someone's hitting the Yahtzee. So anyways, just different cool things. Now, my whole point, none of this is rocket science, right? You probably thought of this stuff before. The whole point is now is the time to do it. Now is the time to plan for it, okay? You can't just go in the middle of the summer when shit's dragging along and you feel like you need a juice. That's the wrong time to go, you know what? Let's put together a sales promo from scratch. Doesn't work very well. You need like a ramp up to get this to work. I would suggest a 45-day ramp up for all your sales messaging, both to the sales team and to any of your client base or your prospect base. You need about a 45-day ramp up window, and you want to make it something special. So again, if you need any more info there, feel free to reach out to me. But this right now is the best time. Well, personally, I would have done it in December, but this is probably the second best time. Get your sales promos for the summer lined up now so that they're all ready and just ready to execute. Okay. Third thing to do now and make sure you have ready before it gets too busy is what I'll call it, my little teaser name for it was the one program for easy contracts, the one program for easy sales. Want to know what program that is? It's one you've already heard of. It's called referrals. Okay. Referrals are obviously the easiest people to sell pools to. You have the highest closing percentage on referrals. So my question to you though is, what is your referral program? And this is salespeople, if you just tuned out on the last one because that's not your job, this one's back to you because this is just as much for sales as it is for management. My question to you is, what's your referral program? Okay. Are you just like getting, you might say, oh man, I get referrals. I sell referrals. Referrals are great. Yeah. But like, what do you do to get them? Are you just getting them organically without trying? And then you get 10 referrals a year? Well, if so, congratulations. That's great. That's really, really awesome. But what if you had a program that you strategically actually executed that went out to get referrals? What if you're doing 10 referrals a year without trying, what does it look like if you can get that number to 20 or 30 by actually having a program for this? Okay. This is not rocket science. And this is also something that's totally, totally doable, but you need to start it now. You can't just try and press and go on this in the middle of the summer because you need time for this to develop. Okay. So incentives, it's all about incentives, right? If you want people to do things, you need to incentivize them. So, and by the way, if you think about it, the easy referrals you get, those are the ones that have no incentive. Those are the nicest, truest referrals, and it's great. But we want more referrals. We want not just the absolute slam dunks, but we want the layups too. Okay, so let's incentivize the clients to give you referrals. How? Pay them money. Okay, we used to do a thing where it was like $1,500, anywhere between $500 and $1,500, depending on what year it was. We would do as an incentive to someone who gave us a referral who bought a swimming pool. So if Miss Jones refers Sally, Sally buys a pool, Miss Jones gets a check from us. Or I think it was like a Visa gift card is the way that we technically did it. There's a Visa gift card for $500 or $1,500. Now, number one, is that real money? Yeah, it's real money. You could just apply it to the job and take a little bit of a loss on the referral job. Or, what you could do also is you could just pad the sale to the referral a little bit. It's up to you whether or not you feel like that, something that sits well with your psyche. I can see justifications for it either way. But you can apply some of the points maybe to the referral sale, have some just come off the top. And that is an incentive, obviously, for you to get referrals. You've heard this before, but are you doing it? And if you say you're doing it, my question is, are you doing it every time? Or do you just sporadically, randomly say, oh yeah, I'll give you $500 for a referral? A program and a system is something that's repeatable. It's written down. It's process oriented. Do you have a process for this? If I went on your computer, would I find like my standard operating procedure for my referral program? Because that's really what you want. And it doesn't need to be anything complicated, but it does need to be written down and it does need to be given to your team so they know what it is. The other little piece of the pie here that really helps is having marketing collateral that's attached to the offer that looks really good. It looks really clean. So literally we used to mail our homeowners who had bought pools. We would mail them little postcards that were basically, they were like referral cards. And they were really nice, color copied, double-sided, postcard size. And could give them, write their name on it and give it to their friend who was referring, and then they would turn those in. Did we really need that? No, of course not. It's really just for show, but did it work? Yeah, it worked super, super well. So my point is referrals, we all know it's key. We all know it can be huge for our business and increase our profit, but are you actually executing a referral generation program in your business? At least half of you are not. That's always the way that it is. And half of you that are, it's kind of wishy-washy, because the truth is that the people who execute this really well 100% of the time, those are the pool companies that aren't listening to this because they're too busy selling $30 million a year, really and truly. So what can you do to make your referral program better now so that it's really, really honed in during the summer? Again, if you have more questions on referral programs, let me know. I can cover it on one of these calls. Okay, the fourth thing to figure out now instead of waiting to the summer is what I'm calling the trust transfer. The trust transfer. Okay, when I say the trust transfer, I'm referring to the handoff between sales and construction. Okay, whenever you sell a job, it's in permitting, permit comes back, it's ready to dig. At some point, the job shifts from being in the hands of the salesperson to being in the hands of the construction department. This one thing, this handoff, is so critical to the profitability of your company. Either you know and you do it really well, or you don't know and you don't do it and you're losing a bunch of money because of it. Okay. if you do not do a proper handoff between sales and construction, it does two things very badly for you. Okay. On the construction side, you end up losing money in construction because your construction guy, your superintendent, isn't empowered to make decisions on the job that are based off of an agreed upon truth. Okay. They basically get stuck in a he said, she said with the sales guy that isn't there. And then they're having to make calls on the spot. And what inevitably happens is that they have to give stuff away for free or fix things that got built incorrectly because the sales guy said it would be one way and it ended up being a different way. That ends up just massacring your profitability on the job. And a lot of guys, when you're newer to this and you don't have these great tracking systems for your profit and loss during jobs, you might go into a job feeling good about it and then not realize by the end of the job, you've eaten up 20, 30, 40, 50% of your profit or more because of construction. We call them construction mistakes, but a lot of times they're not truly construction mistakes. They're just because the job was not handed off correctly. Okay. On the sales side of things, where this screws you up is you have unhappy clients during construction who are sweating your superintendents, making their lives hell. And now the sales guy is getting dragged back into this. The sales guy is inevitably getting pulled in to clean up their mess, or even if they didn't really make a mess, they're getting pulled in to smooth things over. Oftentimes, the sales guy's maybe a little bit better at that sort of thing. But I'll tell you what the sales guy's not doing when he's in the backyard during construction. He is not selling you a pool. Okay, you want your sales guys, especially in the summer, you want them selling. You don't want them doing customer service for jobs under construction. Okay, so how do you solve this? You solve this by making sure that you have a good process for the trust transfer, the handoff. Simply put, most people I think call it the construction meeting. That's what I used to call it. But this is a similar philosophy to where as the referral program. I'm not going to go into the details of the construction meeting right now. I can do that on another call if anyone needs it. But my question is are you doing it? And then are you doing it every time? Okay, if you're a solopreneur or you're a small company, that's when it's easy to not do it every time. Okay, typically your processes, they exist, but no one's really holding anyone accountable, and that's dangerous. Okay, because it only takes one missed construction meeting to create a complete hellhole profit vacuum of a job that everyone is upset about. Okay, so your construction meeting, it should just, it's not nothing crazy. You just have a 30 to 60 minute meetup with preferably in the backyard where the job's going down, sales, construction, homeowner. You review the job, you make sure everyone's on the same page, make sure the construction guy is totally dialed in on all the sales stuff and that proper expectations are set. And sales guys, you should love to do this meeting. I know some salespeople that initially resisted this for some reason, but let me tell you what, if you want your life to be easy and you want to make more money, you got to do the construction meeting. Because if you do this well and you really facilitate the construction meeting, you don't have to do anything during construction, assuming that you did your plans right. Okay. I used to tell people during the construction meeting, I do a great meeting, make sure everyone was on the same page. And then I would literally say, Miss Jones, moving forward, I'm still here for you. But if you need anything, just call John. Or just call the superintendent. You can always call me, but here on out, I don't know the answer. I'm just going to call John. So you may as well just call John first. And when you do this the right way, you effectively hand the job to construction. Sales can go sell. Construction is empowered to build and actually have a real relationship. That's the other big part of it is if you don't do this, your superintendent is coming in cold with no relationship. The person they bought the pool from, who they had the relationship, has zippy doo-dawed out, right? And now the construction guy is kind of like, there's just nothing there. There's nothing there for them to work with, okay? Construction meeting, super important. You salespeople, you should want to do this on every single job. It makes your life way, way, way easier. Okay, final thing to do now instead of waiting until the middle of the summer is perfect your paper pushing. Perfect your paper pushing, okay? Paperwork is the bane of existence for salespeople. is the bane of existence for small companies, especially solopreneur type operations, because the paperwork is something that you have to do, right? You work for a big company, someone else is producing the paperwork, printing it off, putting it on your desk. Yeah, you got to get it filled out, which sucks, but at least other people did the legwork. When you're a smaller company, you're the one that actually has to do the legwork. So what you should do now, instead of waiting to the summer, is get yourself situated on every document, every piece of paper that you're going to use more than twice. Okay, so some examples, and this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch, but just a couple that came to mind is your neighbor's access letter. Okay, right? If you need an access letter for the neighbor because you're going into their yard or going to break their sprinklers or whatever, that would be a great example of what I'm talking about. Also, a damage to access letter where you're explaining damage to access and who's paying for it, right? What else? Material selection forms. Anything that you're going to use more than twice, you should print 100 copies, put them in buy some trays for them and put them in the office. So that way everyone knows where they are. They're right there. There's no excuses. It's easy to just grab them and move on. Okay. That is something that seems so simple and you've seen it in other companies. But my question is do you have it in yours yet? Right? Like, again, I know that this is not complicated, but if it's so easy, why don't you do it? Okay. Just consider the fact that paperwork sucks and it sucks the worst when you're busy. Okay. You don't want to be scrounging around looking for where someone emailed you their access letter from 2015 and you've been printing off that same copy and scratching a name out. It just looks unprofessional. Get this stuff dialed in now. Final little piece on the perfecting your paperwork pushing is probably the most important piece of paperwork, which is construction plans. Construction plans are paperwork. Okay. They're actually, depending on where you live, a legally binding piece of paperwork, whether they sign it or not. If they sign it, it's certainly a legally binding piece of paper. So this is something that, again, if you spend the time to work these kinks out now, you save yourself a lot of money in the middle of the summer when things are busy. And this has a cascade effect. It affects your profit. This one affects your profitability for the rest of the year. So if you are a company that has their salespeople or yourself doing construction plans, or maybe even you are paying someone else to do it, but maybe you don't have a totally dialed in system yet, and maybe it's a different person. My point is you're not getting your plans that are being created, whoever's creating them, whether it's you, salespeople, or a vendor, they're not the same every time and they're not standardized. That's a problem. Start standardizing your plans now. Okay. All salespeople like to think that they're pretty little snowflakes. I know I like to feel that way. But the truth is that when it comes to construction plans, you don't want pretty snowflakes. You want something that is the exact same every single time so that all of your vendors or all of your subs, rather, when they are looking at your plans, they know exactly where to look. They don't have to search for things. This allows them to make fewer mistakes and build jobs faster. Okay, standardize your construction plans. I'm not going to tell you what you need on your construction plans. If that is something that you'd like to talk through, please feel free to reach out. I can give you some ideas, but you should have a checklist of all the things that need to be on every single plan, and then probably a smaller checklist that's telling you what sort of things are optional depending on like the jurisdiction that they're in, right? Or maybe a certain element that's included in the project. That checklist should be turned in alongside the plans from whoever is doing the plans. Okay, this is especially useful for a sales team. Okay, have your salespeople fill out a checklist when they do the plans, and they need to turn in the checklist with the plans. And then here's the last thing that you have to do if you actually want this to work. And this part sucks. You're going to get some angry salespeople the first couple times if you've never done this before. But if they turn in a plan and it is missing something from the checklist, no matter what, you kick the plan back to sales and you tell them, we're not building it till you fix your plan. Was not going out to permit. Salespeople are just simple. I'm speaking for us here. We want to sell the deal. We want the deal to get built and we want to get paid. I'm not Mr. Paperwork. Okay. I'm going to try and get my paperwork done as fast as possible so I can move on to the next one. Okay, so it is infuriating to salespeople, but they learn quick. If they try to turn in a plan that doesn't have everything on your checklist, and you just say, no, 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 and you just push it back across the desk at them and say, fix this. And until you do, I'm not doing, you can't turn this in. Like, I'm not accepting this. This is not a sold job until you fix this and you turn it back in. If you behave that way and treat it like that, again, you will get some annoyed salespeople for a little while, but you'll get them to fix their plans pretty darn quick. And by the way, getting your plans dialed in if they're not already, this makes construction go easier. It goes faster. It's more profitable. And again, this does have a cascade effect. You fix this problem now, and you are going to you'll thank me this fall and this winter when you're building the pools that you sold this summer. It makes a huge, huge difference. So anyways, guys, I could keep going, but I think this is a good place to stop for now. These were 5 things that you can sharpen the axe on now so that your pool company is ready for when things heat up. Salespeople, if you're listening to this, there's some things on here that maybe they don't apply to you, but the things that do, ask yourself, how can I be doing this better? Or how can I help bring this information to my company? Because ultimately, if you're making more money, they're making more money, they can buy you more leads, you can make more money. It's a reciprocal effect. Okay. So anyways, guys, hopefully this was useful information. As always, I'm Matt Hart. This is Digs on Demand, and we'll see you next week. Bye.